welcome to Tell Us Your Story. My name is John. I am the founder and facilitator of TTK Life Strategies. And it's really awesome to share some stories with everybody about experience, strength and hope. And I'm really excited to have Nikki with us tonight. I have known Nikki for a number of years. We've worked together before. And she is also a successful coach and counselor. I've asked Nikki to come and share her story of experience, strength and hope. And the purpose of this whole presentation is just to provide some hope and to provide some inspiration. Nikki, very welcome. Really great to have you, and it's really nice to see you again. Tell us your story.
When I saw you ask for people that would be willing to share their story, I didn't only want to share my story, but I really wanted to connect with you because I've worked with many people over the years, and not all of them would I want to tie myself to. And you're one of those people that I believe has a massive impact on those that you work with. And I think it's based, like, really, besides your knowledge and experience, but your passion and commitment, which it resonates with me. So thank you for that. My story. So maybe I'm going to start at where I am and work backwards a little bit. So I am a self-esteem coach as well as an addiction counselor. And I've been in this industry for going on 12 years. And my story leading up to this, because my career found me, I didn't find it, I think is where the story comes in. I certainly didn't start my career path working in this field, but I did start my life journey on the path of addiction. And I started using heroin from the age of 17 and went in and out of treatment centers along the way until I found the solution that worked for me. There was a part of my story that I felt, if I just got married and had children, had a family of my own, that would be like the solution that I'd been looking for. And that would help me to feel complete and to feel fulfilled, and that I wouldn't be constantly looking outside of myself for something to make me feel okay. Needless to say, that didn't work. And in fact, I think stepping into that role of wife and mother actually landed up leaving me feeling more inadequate and more lost than I was, like, as a single person on the path of addiction. And this time when I relapsed, because I would get clean on and off, and when I relapsed after having had my children, it was a lot more complicated because I now had two little lives in my care and that I was responsible for, and I was lost myself. So I found it almost impossible to take care of them. And part of that relapse that happened was that I committed a crime of fraud during my last relapse, and I was obviously caught. And throughout my journey going forward, I kept fighting the process of going to prison. And I got clean, actually. In fact, I got clean in November 2008, and I was arrested for the first time for this crime in March 2009 because I was under investigation for a year. And I fought the process until I was eventually sentenced in 2011. Continued to fight the process because I really didn't want to surrender to going to prison, and eventually landed up going into prison for the first time in 2015, and continued to fight and try and reduce my sentence, and eventually served my full sentence in 2016. And all the while being clean and sober, and not only being clean and sober, but working in the field of addiction. And the part that really stood out for me is, people say it's amazing how you went through all of that clean. Like, that wasn't the amazing part for me. The amazing part was that people loved and cared and supported me, even though I had done this thing And even though I was facing jail time, like during that period, I had the most incredible job working at a prestigious rehab, and they nurtured me and they supported me. I met my second husband, who is just incredible, and who loved me all the way through this insane situation that I was in. And all of that happened so that I could grow and that I would be okay, and that I would be able to support others going through their journeys. And that knock-on effect, that energy connection that everyone felt with me and that I could feel with everyone else, was that thing that I had been looking for my whole life. I had always felt so lost and so alone. And through this experience was the first time that I was able to feel loved, supported, and connected, and know that it was real. And that's where I found my hope. And I grew so much through being in prison and through coming out of prison and learning how I wanted to develop my life and to become the best wife I could be, the best mom I could be, and the best therapist that I could be, constantly growing and changing my program that I offer to clients. And I can say now, I mean, my whole sentence, including my parole, etc., ended in 2017. And today, as my life stands, honestly, if I could have imagined something, it wouldn't have been this. It is magnificent, the opportunities, and where I am in terms of the outpatient program that I've grown, and working with other treatment centers and helping grow their counselors, and to be able to help people on a huger scale than I could ever imagine. I wake up every morning thinking I have to pinch myself, is this actually my life? And that I go to sleep at night, besides being exhausted, I go to sleep at night just in absolute fulfillment. And that's what I always wanted. So yeah, I think that I always tell people going to prison was what really set me free, even though I was almost 8 years clean when I landed up finally serving my sentence. I believe that my story is one of miracles, hope, and possibilities. I don't know if that makes sense to you, John, but that's kind of what was on my heart to share today. Strangely enough, my darkest moment was when after I came out of prison, and the setting was that I still had my amazing job at the prestigious rehab. They supported me through the entire process, even paying my salary while I was still in prison. My current husband, who was my boyfriend then, who supported me and stood by me through the whole process, who was still there for me, obviously, when I came out. And at that moment, when I came out of prison, I felt, I'd always had some battle to fight, whether it was my addiction or whether it was this jail sentence. And now I didn't have any of that. And there was just peace. And I didn't actually know what to do with that. And strangely enough, that was my darkest moment. And that was when I started learning more about self-esteem development, because I knew how to stay clean. But what I didn't know was about the true nature of my value and worth as a human being. And that's been the second part of my journey up until now. And that's a huge aspect of what I teach my clients at the moment. I think that, probably like a lot of people, I'd always been fed this idea of you have so much potential and just never quite reaching it, and always feeling like it was almost out of my reach. I did well at school and I had friends and I excelled at sport, but just still never feeling like I was quite good enough, or that I had reached this end destination where I somehow magically would feel complete. And that's part of the reason, I suppose, why I got married and had a family, because I thought, well, that's it. Maybe that's the finish line. When I have my own family, then I'll feel that. And it was quite the opposite experience. And now I think if I had to describe my life, is that I have choices, and I have a partner who inspires me and who supports me and who guides me as much as I do the same for him. And I think my two biggest mirrors and blessings are my children, who, in spite of everything that I have put them through, are the most wise, well-adjusted, kind, respectful human beings that I think I've ever met. And sometimes I look at them and I think, like, God must just have blessed me, because, you know, everything that I've put you through should have taken you on a very different path. And that thing that I always wanted was to feel like I was enough, that there wasn't a finish line, that I was already at the finish line and everything else was just an added bonus. And at the moment, my life is just full of bonuses. And that's how I see it. Because, like me as I am, if I took everything away from me, I'd still be me. You know, my value would never change. I don't have to perform or achieve or do anything in order to reach that goal. I just have to be alive. I had a few of those, and certainly prison was one of them, and I'll speak a little bit about that. I think that before I got clean, the process that led me up to getting clean this last and final time was that my ex-husband was in a treatment center, and I took drugs into the treatment center for him, and they called the police, and we were arrested in front of my two children. And it was a Sunday morning, and our arresting officer could have arranged special bail for me because I was a mom and I had two kids. And she said to me, "No, I'm not going to do that, because your children are actually better off without you." And that was like an icon that has stuck with me, and was the start of like, oh wow, that's really true. And not long after that, I overdosed and landed up in Pretoria Academic Hospital. And when I went back to the home that we were living in, which was with my ex-in-laws, my mother-in-law said to me, "You're the worst mother that I've ever seen in my whole life." And in that moment, the light bulb went on and something clicked into place. And I realized she was absolutely right. And I didn't want to be that anymore. That's not what my dream was. That's not why I had children. It's not the legacy that I wanted to leave behind. And I never used again. That was my tipping point. That was the start of me, like, not just getting clean, but going on this like recovery journey and changing my life. And, you know, my husband at the time, he was still using. In fact, he's still using. I don't really know where he is, but, you know, part of the separation from him and from active addiction was started in that moment for me. The other thing is, because I always felt less than, or that I had to work in order to find favor or to create value for myself, that I had this incredible job where people, like, they valued me and they appreciated me, but because I didn't feel that within myself, I would take on more and more tasks to like to prove to people like how indispensable I was. And so I would always have this idea in my head that I was working to support my family, but I never saw them. I would work from 7 a.m. till like 8 o'clock at night, and then come home and be exhausted, all under the like guise of, you know, I'm doing this to look after my children. And the gift for me of being taken out of my life and put into prison, where I couldn't work and I couldn't see my family, but I was given the gift of having perspective, of being given perspective, time to reflect and time to figure out, hang on a second, what am I missing right now? I'm not missing work, but I'm missing my family and my children desperately. And it allowed me to say, right, I need to work and I need to earn money, but I love and adore my family. And that time and quality time and connection with them is what's really important to me. And I've been able to adapt my life where I work less hours now, earn more money, and spend like incredible time with the people that mean the most to me in this world. And part of that is to be able to really be there with and for my children, because that was always something that I missed in my own life, and I suppose was a big part of how I landed up in that place in the first place, you know, from not being given that nurturing, that fulfillment as a child, where I looked outside of myself to try and find it as an adult. Answer might sound a little strange, but my answer is to be absolutely grateful. In those moments of crisis, we are faced with the crossroads and are given the options to like change course or change direction and to reach out. So whether I'm speaking to a family member, the loved one of an addict, or the addict themselves, or anyone in some type of dilemma, it's like when something comes to a head, like embrace it and say, right, like now it's in my face that something needs to change. I'm going to grab hold with both hands and like allow myself to listen to this message, whether you believe in God or the universe or whatever it is, just to say, like, this is the gift that's been given to me now. And often the most beautiful gifts come wrapped up in like a rubbish bag. And because they're in disguise, we often miss them. And like that would be my lesson. Don't lose hope. That's the moment when you should feel most hopeful, and reach out for help, because there are hundreds of teachers around you willing to be there to support you, to nurture you, and to get you to reach that potential that everyone's always told you you've had. Like now's your opportunity if you are in that dark space. Because I just did the content for my social media over this last few weeks has all been about finding your purpose. And for me, it's what is the legacy that I want to leave behind? What matters to me? Like, how do I want to be remembered? Where do I want to invest my time and energy? And I think, you know, as I've got older, the path that was already clear to me has just become more defined. And when I say that my career found me, like when I started, you know, treading on this path, and I tread lightly, doors were opened for me, and like mentors, I met mentors along the way, and I had to be open to those like roads that were revealed to me. But the important part is that I needed to know I woke up every day knowing that I was doing something meaningful. And I don't think you need to work in an industry like this or in the medical field where you're saving lives, but like meaningful can be, you know, teaching children at the moment. We're living through a pandemic and children are feeling quite anxious and lost. And if I go to school as a teacher and I let that child feel understood and feel supported, like I'm creating meaning in my life. I'm doing something valuable. And I think that every single person needs to just be asking themselves, you know, how can I do what I'm doing to the best of my ability and feel proud of myself at the end of the day? And that's going to lead me to finding more and more of my path and my vision. They can check out my website, which is nikkimunitz.com. Or they can pop me a mail at consulting@nikkimunitz.com. And all of my social media pages, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.